I think bilingual education is when you learn a different language.
I think that bilingual education is simply just learning another language other than your first language.
Bilingual education is using someone's native language for instruction.
Bilingual education is where you are taught in two separate languages on the same curriculum.
I would say bilingual education is giving people of different languages a different perspective of the same material and having a connection between all of them.
Some challenges and discrepancies of teaching bilingual language would be that maybe some children don't want to learn a certain language. It would be hard to decide on one specific language for everyone to learn.
I think some challenges that could come along with bilingual education is that maybe not everyone will want to learn the same language. So, for example, not everyone would want to learn Spanish because maybe their parents are French.
Some challenges with bilingual education is that a lot of parents and students aren't really for it because they feel like they only need to know the English language because they're in America and they're not going to go anywhere else.
I think some challenges with bilingual education is that for certain kids, the different languages, they comes to them better than others, and some have been brought up understanding one of the languages that has already been taught, so there's a huge gap in the way people are going to learn.
I would say the whole language barrier is one of the biggest difficulties with bilingual education.
I think that teaching more than one language is necessary because it can definitely add cultural value to someone's education, and you could do this by allowing students to pick a certain second language to learn in school.
I think that it's kind of necessary depending on just your preference, because I think it's always good to be well versed in other cultures. So knowing their language is definitely the first step because you want to be open-minded and knowledgeable about people surrounding you. I think in order to successfully teach another language, you have to immerse the students from a young age. Like, you can't start when they're in high school. It has to be early on and do it continually every year so that they get enough practice.
I definitely think that bilingual education is relevant for our society because America is the melting pot, so there's all kinds of cultures in our country. And also, it's relevant for the classroom because with multiculturalism, there's going to obviously be different students in your classroom. So you need to teach all the different kinds of kids about the different surrounding kids.
It is not necessary to learn more than one language. I think that it can be a great help, and I think depending on the language that you should learn one of the major languages if you don't already. It comes in handy for everything. But I think the way to go about it is to really make kids take a exam or some type of test so that they can get placed into a class where they will be with kids that know the same amount of language as them and that will progress hopefully at the same rate as them, because otherwise you'll have a huge issue with kids not understanding and being left behind while other kids are progressing much faster.
I would definitely say that teaching bilingual education is necessary in the classroom, just because you are going to run into it no matter how hard you try not to, and I would think visual learning would be the best.
I think that bilingual education would enhance participation because maybe someone who's scared to speak out because they're used to a different language wouldn't be as scared.
I think it would really only enhance participation if you have kids that are used to being around other languages. So say that someone's family is Hispanic, so they're used to hearing their mom and dad talking Spanish.
I think bilingual instruction would obviously enhance participation because then the students who aren't familiar with the sole language of the school has a chance to participate.
I do not believe that bilingual education would enhance the participation in the class.
It all depends on the person.
I have had personal experience with bilingual education because in high school I took Spanish, but I don't think it was to the extent that it should have been, and I'm not fluent in Spanish, so it's kind of a waste of time.
The only experience I've had with bilingual education is taking Spanish, so.
I would say I did have an experience with bilingual education just by taking my Spanish classes, but I don't think that picks up on every other culture that's in the school.
I've not had any experience with bilingual education.
I have not.
In this video, a lot of people agreed that bilingual education would be a great asset to have in the classroom, but as some people mentioned, the students have to be immersed at a young age in order to get the full effect of bilingual education. There are a lot of issues surrounding bilingual education, and getting around these issues is not an easy task, but there are many different varieties of bilingual education. There's traditional, there's maintenance, and there's also dual language immersion, and doing any of those options is one way to get around a lot of these controversies. We have to encourage students, parents, faculty, and the common public that being diverse is not something that only happens in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well, so that when students become the next generation, that they will be able to interact with each other and have an understanding for each other's cultures, and be able to respect each other in ways where they can understand each other on a new kind of level.